Hey guys, Abby here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about level 53 Gamma Burst Flak, what my build guide looks like, the gear, all that good stuff. You guys saw in the intro a little bit of gameplay. I'm kind of trying to switch up my editing style a little bit, so let me know if you liked it or didn't like it in the comments below. But we're going to jump right into this. I've made a ton of videos on Gamma Burst Flak, so if you want to check them out, there's going to be links down below to all of them. But my previous video on how to build Gamma Burst Flak 3 different ways is fairly similar to this. We're just adding 3 more skill points. I'm also going to give you guys recommendations on what gear to switch up for bossing versus mobbing versus Maliwan Takedown, so that you have an idea of how to pair different gear pieces together to make your build more powerful for the activity that you're doing. So first things first, we're going to go into the skill tree. I'm going to pop up the entire skill tree on the screen right now. If you guys want to pause, screenshot, whatever. If you are interested in the nitty gritty, then keep on watching, and then we're going to dive into the gear a little bit later. Alright, so first up, we are going to talk about the blue tree, since that is where our action skill Gamma Burst is located. The Gamma Burst action skill creates a rift at your target location, and it teleports your pet through the rift, and it deals radiation damage to nearby enemies. This creates an aura around the enemies if they are irradiated, and will also spread to other enemies, damaging them. So radiation can be really powerful. Additionally, your pet is going to be irradiated, it grows in size, and it deals bonus radiation damage when it does its regular attacks. Gamma Burst can also revive your pet, which is super important, but your pet will revive at 30% of its health and will double your action skill cooldown time. It doesn't say it on the card, but your pet will also be immune while in Gamma Burst for the duration of Gamma Burst. So as long as you have some nice action skill cooldown time, whether it be from your artifact, class mod, or guardian rank, you'll be able to get your pet back quickly, because in Mayhem 4, your pet's probably going to die if you're in some harder situations like Slaughter Shaft or the takedown. As soon as Gamma Burst is over, your pet may die, so it's important to get that Gamma Burst back up as soon as possible. And when we go over the gear, I'll show you guys how to do that. This is our blue skill tree. We're going to be going down here. The normal points that I've put into almost every Gamma Burst build, the only ones that I really want to point out and explain to you guys are the 1 point into he bites. We put 1 point here because the reflection damage that your pet sends back to the enemies actually counts towards stacks of frenzy. Frenzy says whenever your pet deals damage, you gain a stack of frenzy. This is going to stack up really fast, especially if you're using the Red Fang class mod and all the enemies are targeting your pet. And so when the enemies shoot at your pet, you're actually going to get stacks of frenzy. So these go really well together, and I would 100% recommend always having 1 point into he bites. Now you can have it on your Red Fang class mod, and so you don't necessarily have to spec into it, but because I like to switch my class mods and use Bounty Hunter when I'm bossing, I always put a point into it just so that it's always there. And then Psycho Head on a Stick is a completely optional point. It's up to you guys whether you want to put it in here or not. Since our pet is most likely going to go down in those harder situations like Slaughter Shaft and Takedown, Who Rescued Who isn't super important. Yes, it does give Flak some health regen as well, but I like putting 1 point into Psycho Head on a Stick just to give my pet a little bit more movement speed. It helps to stack up the frenzy stacks, and so I plop it in there. You could definitely put it into Who Rescued Who though if you prefer. And then we've got Barbaric Yomp for our pet bonuses. In case you guys don't know what pet bonuses are, those are listed on the pet card. So for instance, the Great Horn Skag gives us damage and gun damage, the Spider Ant, which I'm using, gives us health regen and elemental damage, and the Jabber gives you movement speed and max health. You can see on all the other pet cards what they'll give you when you're making your decision about what pet to use. And then down here in Pack Tactics, this is where one of our extra points from 50 to 53 is going, so we're maxing out Pack Tactics. This gives us 21% damage and 15% max health. So this is really nice just for an extra layer of survivability for Flak. It gives us 21% flat damage. It's not conditional. We don't have to do anything to get that. So that's a really nice pickup as well. And then for our skill augments, for our Gamma Burst, we're going to be using Empathic Rage, which gives Flak 20% extra damage while in Gamma Burst, so that's always a plus. And then we're also going with Endurance, which is going to increase the duration of Gamma Burst for every kill you get up to 5. Popping over to the red tree, this is going to be our other tree. Our green tree is completely blank. And in this tree, we're going to be going all the way down here, the usual red tree setup for me at least. And I do use head count for my Gamma Burst build versus my Wrek build. I do not use head count because I feel like I don't need the action skill cooldown. On Gamma Burst, you want to get your action skill back up as soon as possible because that's where you're going to be getting your most damage and your pet's going to be alive. So speccing into head count, even though it is a little buggy, you'll find that it's super easy with certain weapons to get your Gamma Burst back. So I would recommend 3 out of 3 in here. And then for Two Fang, I've said this on previous videos, you're going to want to use this only if you're using single pellet weapons. So if you're using SMGs like the Redistributor, if you're using the Cutsman, if you're using the Wedding Invitation, if you're using the Chaos, if it's listed as a single pellet or it's unlisted, then you're going to want to use Two Fang. Some of the ×2 weapons work fairly well with it, like the Lump. However, if you're using weapons like the Maggie, which is ×6, and the Brainstormer, which is ×7 or ×14, then you may want to spec into something else because Two Fang only adds 1 extra projectile. Even if it says ×6 like the Maggie, you're only going to be getting ×7 when Two Fang procs, so it's not worth the extra points just to get that chance of 1 extra out of the total of 6, to get the 1 extra added to the total of 6. So from there we go into big game, most dangerous game, Galactic Shadow and Megavore. Now I did put 4 points into Grim Harvest. I feel like with Gamma Burst we get a lot out of this because we're getting pet damage, action skill damage, and gun damage on it. We're getting an extra 12% gun damage total for 4 points in a Grim Harvest. You can put these points elsewhere. So if you feel like second intention reload speed is a really nice quality of life for your flag, then definitely by all means put the points into there. You can also put the points into Hunter's Eye, but keep in mind that Hunter's Eye is a little bugged right now. You don't actually get the full value of the skill. In the comments below, I'm going to pin my comment and I'll give you guys the full math breakdown of Hunter's Eye and how it's actually bugged in case you guys want to take a look, but use caution when speccing into it. I feel like if you're going to be doing a lot of Maliwan Takedown, it could be worth it, or if you are running into a lot of robots. And then for our pet, we're going to be using the Spider Ant Scorcher. This is going to give us health regen, which I really like. It helps Flak stay healthy. It allows you a little bit more flexibility when it comes to your gear, and it also gives you elemental damage 30%, which is really nice because I use a lot of elemental weapons. You could also use the Great Horn Skag. This gives you damage and gun damage. They turn out to be pretty much the same. All right, now that we've gone over the skill tree, I want to show you guys my gear and give you a few options here. So initially, let me just say that I love the combination of Cryo and Radiation. It works really well because Cryo is good against armor and Radiation is great against shields, and they're both neutral against health. So it gives a really good pairing together. You also get the Radiation explosions and the aura damage, and then with Cryo, you also get the crowd control of freezing the enemies. And then with the Icebreaker, we're also going to get increased damage against frozen targets. So that being said, my main weapon is the Redistributor in Cryo with the Gamma Burst Anointment. Now, you don't have to use a Redistributor. I know it's difficult to farm. If you don't have the Redistributor, a couple other good options are the Chaos that was just recently buffed in the hotfix. You could also use a Nighthawken. Now, when you're looking at Nighthawkens, make sure you look for a high fire rate. This one's a level 50, but it still works really well. This one is 14.04 fire rate. That's the highest fire rate you can get on a Nighthawken. And then on your Nighthawken, you also want to look and make sure it's burst fire. If you go down to the parts and you look at the fire selector, it should say swaps between burst fire and semi-auto. That's what you want. It allows you to shoot the weapon very, very fast and get damage out really fast. For our mobbing weapon and the weapon that we're going to be using to get our Gamma Burst back super quickly is the Brainstormer. Now I like the cash infused Brainstormer. That means it's times 7. The redundant version is going to be times 14. I prefer the times 7 just because I don't use as much ammo, and you don't really need to because of the chains. You're going to be chaining critical hits, which is going to proc your head count skill, that skill in the red tree, and it's going to get your gamma burst back really fast. If you've got a lot of enemies all grouped up together, the Brainstormer also will obliterate them really fast as well. And then other weapons that you could use that are super fun and effective are weapons like the Wedding Invitation. This sniper came from the Broken Hearts event, if you guys got it. It is a great fire weapon for taking out anointed enemies, really great on bosses as well. I use it in the Trial of Cunning all the time to 1 or 2 shot the tinks in the head and be done with them, because it can be really frustrating to deal with anointed enemies. So this one's really great. And then for areas like the Takedown, I always use a Cutsman on the Valkyries, on the Kraken, on Wotan. The Corrosive Cutsman is just a really great weapon for taking out anything with an armor bar. The Stuff Shredded Lump is really great on flak, especially if you get one in cryo. It's a fun little crowd control weapon. If you shoot it in between all of the enemies, it'll chain to them and then explosions and everything's dead. Another really great weapon that you could also use as your primary weapon if you wanted to is the Ion Laser. This guy comes from the DLC, the Jackpot DLC, and you can get it in cryo. You can also get a boost to the cryo efficiency on it. I believe I had one that was 305. Of course, the Maggie is always a good pickup. Rowan's Calls are not bad at all either. And then for bossing, you're going to want to look for the Dictator. And then now, most recently, since the hotfix, the Lob. And then I'll also just mention the Eruption, Zaitsev's Eruption. It is a Mayhem 4 drop from Slaughter boss, but this one is really great if you just want to debuff the enemies with the projectiles. Basically, when this gun overheats, it shoots out projectiles, they seek targets, and then you profit by doing more damage to them, basically. So it's nice to overheat it, get the projectiles out, switch to another weapon, and clean up the enemies. And then moving down to our shield, we've got the stopgap here. I have capacity and turtle on mine. I would really love to find a double capacity stopgap, but that's the one I use. I've also got some other ones. Adaptive is really nice. If you can find a double adaptive stopgap, super nice, definitely pick it up. You can always use your transformer, but as far as anointments, you definitely want to look for elemental anointments on here. Even though Gamma Burst is a long action skill, you can actually fake burst it and trigger these elemental anoints. So all you need to do to fake burst is just look up to the sky or somewhere where your gamma burst cannot spawn in. So sometimes you can like look over there or whatever, but you're going to want to basically look up to the sky and then hit your action skill, and you can see in the bottom right hand corner of my screen, you can see it is trying to go, but it's just refunding me. However, you're going to get the action skill end anointments from your shield and grenade are going to start proccing for 10 seconds. So that's really nice to do if you are bossing, if you are just coming into the area, if a round of Slaughter Shaft is just starting, and then your Gamma Burst is going to last for 45 seconds or so. So you won't get this bonus elemental damage for the entirety of your Gamma Burst, but you're going to be getting your radiation bonus from your weapon anoints, which should be enough if you're using the proper elements. That's why I said I like cryo, because if you stack radiation with a radiation anointment, it's a lot of radiation, and if they have armor, it's going to be tough to get through that unless you have your corrosive ASE up or a cryo ASE or something like that. And then for the grenade, I like using an It's Piss grenade. Damaged enemies take 20% increased damage for 6 seconds. So basically you try to throw this on the bigger, heavier targets, but this is just going to give you some bonus elemental damage. So if you don't have a piss grenade, use whatever grenade you like. Hunter Seekers are great if you want to keep an eye out for mitosis Hunter Seekers, or you could always use a hex grenade as well. And then for our class mod, we're using the Red Fang for mobbing and for doing takedown. So I like to keep Red Fang on for the entirety of takedown, because while Gamma Burst is active, your pet is going to be taunting all the enemies, so it takes a lot of the aggro off you. For the skill points, you don't really need to worry about where the skill allocation is on your Red Fang unless you haven't spec'd into He Bites. If you haven't spec'd into He Bites, then you want at least 1 point here. What you mostly want to focus on is the perks down below. And then for bossing, we're going going to be switching over to the Bounty Hunter. So when you go against Agonizer or Trant or Genevieve or any of the big bosses, you're going to want to switch to a Bounty Hunter class mod. This is going to give us a chance to activate any of our purchase hunt skills when dealing gun damage. So grab one of these guys as well. You want the most into most dangerous game, that middle skill right there. Frenzy is nice. However, when you're bossing, a lot of times your frenzy won't stack up very high because your pet is not taking the aggro since you're using the bounty hunter. So I would recommend just trying to find 3 points into most dangerous game, and then however the skills may lay, and then looking at your perks down below and trying to match your perks with the weapons that you're using to boss. So if you're using the Cutsman, try to find SMG damage. If you're using the Dictator, try to find assault rifle damage, etc. And then lastly, for our artifact, we're going to be using an Icebreaker Auto Idol. Mine's still level 50 just because this is like the perfect perks for me, so I've kept it. The level 53 one is actually 37% bonus damage to frozen, so of course if you can find a 53 one, do so. But the Icebreaker Auto Idol is actually going to give you bonus damage versus frozen enemies, cryo efficiency to keep them frozen, and then you also want to look for perks that are going to boost cryo damage, boost your cryo efficiency, or regen health like I have is a really good one, or action skill cooldown would be great as well. For the artifact, you also have a couple different options as well. If you want to use a victory rush for some more damage, if you feel like you don't need the extra health, you could also use a victory rush. For prefixes, you could also use flesh melter. If you're going against a lot of armor targets, you're using a lot of corrosive, you could use flesh melter. That'll give you a bonus. And then another option is a last stand auto idol. That'll give you a little bit more sustainability. And then lastly, I'll say you can also use an atom bomb relic as well. This one won't give you as much damage, but it's going to make the aura do more damage that's around the enemies and make that radius bigger, so it's going to kind of infect more enemies. So if you're doing a lot of mobbing where the enemies are close together, that could be a good option. However, I like the bonus damage of the Icebreaker, and I like using cryo for the crowd control like I said, so this is my preferred artifact. And that's pretty much it for the gear, guys. I absolutely love running Gamma Burst Flak now. Ever since they increased this Gamma Burst anointment to 115%, oh my gosh, Flak has been so much fun. I've been having a lot of fun on Gamma Burst, so I hope you guys will as well. If you have any questions, make sure to put them down in the comments below. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this video and this build guide for Gamma Burst Flak, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps me out a lot. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell for notifications. I also stream live on twitch.tv/AbbyHour Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If you're watching this video early, then guess what? I'm live right now. But yeah, I would love it if you guys would come over and say hey. I'm usually playing Flak, sometimes Moe's. So until next time, guys, have a good one. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.